It's now been 2 years since I made that 204 Dbd Myths Busted video, so I thought I would do the same thing again as I'm a little bit ill this week and really don't have enough energy to make a new one. Less adverts, balanced audio, couple of corrections. Here is 114 Dbd Myths Busted. Darkness revealed procs when a survivor is inside of a locker. This one was submitted by Colkhead. Darkness reveals the auras of all survivors within 8 meters of a locker for 5 seconds when searching a locker. But will it reveal survivors who are hidden inside of a locker? Let's take a look. Hex Plaything can become the totem you're cleansing, kicking you off and blocking it. This one was submitted by Jaluni Cake and Archive Challenges and also by Matt Boy. And probably other people. Sorry if I've missed it. So, Hex Plaything activates on a random Dole totem each time that the survivor is hooked for the first time. It applies obliviousness to the survivor that was hooked, and for its first 90 seconds can only be cleansed by the hooked survivor. So, what happens if you're already midway through a totem when Hex Plaything triggers on the totem that you're cleansing? Will it kick you off and block it? Let's take a look. Oni's M1 counts as an M2 when he's in Rara mode. This one was submitted by Mesa T. Let me explain. Special attacks or M2s don't work with the exposed status effect, so a survivor will not be downed instantly as expected. When the Oni is in Fury, or Rara mode as I call it, his M1 attacks may count as a special attack and therefore not work with exposed. Let's take a look. Legion can kick a gen once and still damage it. This one was submitted by Lone Wolf 1733, who, rather than submitting this as a myth, is listing this one as a fun fact. Here's the build. Brutal Strength allows you to kick gen 20% faster, and Frank's Mixtape allows you to kick gens a further 20% faster while in Frenzy. The question is whether or not this will be so fast as to stop the animation after only 1 kick rather than the usual 2. Let's take a look. You can get a heal while broken. This one was submitted by Lex Taze. The broken status effect means that you can't be healed. Deliverance applies broken when self-unhooking for 60 seconds. Resurgence gives you 50% healing when unhooked or unhooking yourself, and Solidarity heals you 50% of the value that you heal others. So, if you unhook yourself with Deliverance, take Resurgence and Solidarity, and then heal another survivor, can you fully heal while still broken? Let's find out. Unrelenting decreases the time it takes the dredge to break a lock. This one was submitted by Fred Jones. I think that a few people have submitted this one, but the first one that I saw was Fred Jones. Unrelenting reduces the cooldown of missed attacks by 30%. The dredge breaks locks on lockers by swinging at them. As this isn't hitting a survivor, however, does it count as a missed attack and therefore benefit from the use of Unrelenting? Let's find out. Mad Grit can prevent the full benefit from Boil Over. This one was submitted by Marla Roy. That's a confusing title, so let me explain. Mad Grit pauses the wiggle bar's progression when hitting a survivor. Boil Over gains 33% in the wiggle bar when the killer falls from a great height. So what would happen if you hit a survivor with Mad Grit, then drop from a great height while carrying a survivor with Boil Over? Will the bar still gain the 33% progress or not, as Marla Roy is suggesting? And finally, Hex Undying will revive a rekindled totem. This one was submitted by Victor Rolando. Hex Undying allows a cleansed Hex totem to carry over to the Hex totem spawned by Undying. But will this effect carry over for rekindled totems created by the killer using Hex Pentamento? The theory being that as they are technically different to regular Hex totems, the effect perhaps won't carry over. Darkness Revealed activates when pulling a survivor out of a locker. This one was submitted by No Name the First and is actually a follow-up from the last episode where I thought a similar myth was whether or not it showed survivors inside of lockers. Darkness Revealed reveals the auras of all survivors within 8 meters of a locker when searching a locker for 5 seconds. It has a 30-second cooldown, but does it trigger when grabbing a survivor out of a locker? And does it trigger when teleport grabbing a survivor as the dredge? Blindness makes player auras vanish in Nightfall. This one was submitted by Rain or Melton TTV. See, when you're in Nightfall, you can see sight-enhancing visual effects on the survivors and killer under specific circumstances to help navigate the darkness. This is similar to aura reading, and the blindness status effect prevents you from being able to read auras. But can you still see these auras when blinded as a survivor during Nightfall? And how about as the killer, given that you can now get the blindness status effect using Hattie's new perk Residual Manifest? Let's take a look. Remember Me can gain stacks post-activation. This one was submitted by Nils Steinhauser. Remember Me gains a token every time the obsession loses a health state up to a maximum of 4 tokens. Each token causes the exit gate opening time to increase by 4 seconds. But what would happen if you hit the obsession after the exit gates are powered? What if someone was already actively opening the gate? Would it gain a stack and continue to slow down? Pig House Gloves reduce pallet stun duration when carrying a survivor. This one was submitted by iconic Twitter account Nerf Noed. Pig House Gloves is a Billy add-on that reduces pallet stun duration by 50%. But does this include stuns given while carrying a survivor? The question, because Enduring specifically doesn't. Play with your food affects power movement speeds. This one was submitted by Lewis Joined the Party. Play with your food gains a token each time you chase your obsession and let them escape up to a maximum of 3 tokens. Each token increases your movement speed by 5%. But does the movement speed increase apply to killer power movement speeds such as the Wraith speed when cloaked? Inner Focus allows you to see other survivors' pebble scratch marks. This one was submitted by Jude Dubbing and Grayson Daly. Inner Focus allows you to see other survivors' scratch marks within a 32-meter range. Diversion allows you to throw a pebble which creates scratch marks at the place where it lands. But can you see other survivors' pebble scratch marks with Inner Focus? Let's find out. The Dredge activates Spine Chill when looking around in a locker. This one was submitted by Cat of Death. Spine Chill lights up whenever the killer is looking at you, but will it trigger when the Dredge is looking at you from a locker? This solution works when grabbing a survivor. This one was submitted by Jeremy Medrano. This solution activates 3 seconds after injuring a survivor for 20 seconds. When a survivor fast vaults a pallet within your terror radius, that pallet is destroyed. But what would happen if they went to fast vault a pallet and you grabbed them? Let's take a look. Small game doesn't trigger on rekindled totems. This one was submitted by Jojo or Anorexichag. Yeah, Anorexichag, I don't know. Hex Pentamento allows you to rekindle cleansed totems, a special fourth state of being for totems. Small game gives you an auditory warning when looking at the... Hello? That was weird. Small game gives you an auditory warning when looking in the direction of totems in a 45-degree angle when within 12 meters. It gains a token that decreases this detection angle by 5 degrees every time you cleanse a dollar hex totem, but no mention of rekindled totems is made. So, will it spark an auditory warning when looking at a rekindled totem? Small game gains a token when cleansing rekindled totems. And will small game gain a token when cleansing a rekindled totem, even though the description doesn't specify that it will? Zombies can one-shot you when you're exposed. This one was submitted by Razor Killer. Let's say you jump out of a locker and the killer has Iron Maiden. You're already infected. Will the zombies be able to one-hit down you due to the exposed, or does it still count as a single health state loss? Let's take a look. The Wraith doesn't trigger crows when cloaked. This one was submitted by Enchanter110. Dead by Daylight's trials are adorned with crows who fly away when a survivor or the killer gets too near. But will this still happen when the Wraith is cloaked? He's invisible, right? So what would they be running away from? Let's take a look. Using a brand new part will override Overcharge. This one was submitted by the mobile game pistol guy. Overcharge activates when damaging a generator. The next survivor who interacts with it is faced with a difficult skill check. But what will happen if a survivor uses a brand new part, which also causes 2 difficult skill checks to appear on an overcharged generator? Will the BMP be ignored? Will Overcharge be ignored? Let's find out. Unrelenting assists with the cooldown of hitting walls. This one was submitted by Mr. XD. Unrelenting reduces the cooldown of missed attacks by 30%, but will it apply this benefit to hits that connect with a wall? We found out a few weeks ago that it doesn't work when breaking a lock as the dredge, so it might stand to reason that it's a blanket rule for any connection. Let's find out. Iron Maiden activates when pulling a survivor out of a locker as the dredge. This one was submitted by Name Loading. Iron Maiden causes survivors who exit lockers to suffer from exposed for 30 seconds. They also scream. But will Iron Maiden trigger if a survivor is grabbed out of a locker via the dredge's teleportation? Let's find out. Decisive Strike activates when pulling a survivor out of a locker as the dredge. Another one from Name Loading along the same lines. Will Decisive Strike trigger when you're pulled out of a locker by the dredge's teleportation? Buckle Up takes precedence over Knockout. This one was submitted by Yunch. Buckle Up allows you to determine the recovery progress of dying survivors by the intensity of their auras, visible at a distance of 48 meters. Knockout causes dying survivor auras to not be revealed if a survivor is further than 16 meters away. But will Buckle Up supersede the effect of Knockout and allow you to see the aura anyway? Let's take a look. You can drop multiple dream pallets on Freddy with Power Struggle. This one was submitted by the legendary Sloth. Power Struggle allows you to drop pallets on the killer when you're being carried, provided you've reached 15% wiggle progression or higher. You can drop Freddy's dream pallets when in this state, but of course they don't stun him. So can you drop multiple dream pallets onto him? Let's find out. This one obviously is going to work. I'm just interested in seeing what it looks like, because it looks really silly, right? Dissolution activates via Dark Devotion's Terror Radius. This one was submitted by Hennicide. Dark Devotion causes your Terror Radius to be transferred to the Obsession when hitting them with a basic attack. Dissolution activates 3 seconds after injuring a survivor by any means for 20 seconds. If a survivor fast vaults a pallet while in your Terror Radius, the entity will break that pallet once the vault ends. The perk then deactivates. So, if you give your Terror Radius to the Obsession runs away, and then a survivor fast vaults a pallet in the Obsession's Terror Radius, will Dissolution still cause that pallet to break? Blindness blocks the Dredge's ability to teleport. This one was submitted by Joseph Stacy. Residual Manifest causes a killer blinded by a flashlight to be inflicted with the blindness status effect, which blocks their ability to read auras. Some killer powers, for example the Dredge's ability to teleport between lockers, depend on the auras of those lockers being visible. So what happens if Greggy Boy is blinded? Are you still able to teleport or not? And finally, Inner Focus activates when another survivor dies. This one was submitted by Revoltix. Inner Focus allows you to read the killer's aura for 5 seconds whenever another survivor within 32 meters of you loses a health state. But will this effect trigger if a survivor dies within 32 meters of you? In the past, we found that this sort of thing does work, as Hooked to Dead does count as a health state change, but we haven't tested it with Inner Focus yet. So let's take a look. A downed survivor can destroy the Dredge's remnant. This was submitted by Idle. When the Dredge goes into teleportation mode, it leaves behind the remnant, which can be teleported back to. The remnant is destroyed when a survivor walks through it. But is this still true for downed survivors crawling into the remnant? Let's find out. Residual Manifest blocks the twins' ability to see each other's auras. This one was submitted by A Still Exists. Residual Manifest applies the blindness status effect to the killer when you blind them. This prevents them from being able to read auras. So, will this stop the twins from being able to see each other? Blood Favor will block a pallet post any means necessary. This one was submitted by Enchanter110. Hex Blood Favor causes all upright pallets within 32 meters of a survivor who go down a health state to be entity blocked for 15 seconds. Any means necessary allows you to lift back up a dropped pallet. So, will Blood Favor's entity block be applied retroactively if the perk is still active after any means necessary has lifted up a pallet? Let me explain why I included that one. Often I'll include myths and I'll get comments saying, well, that was obvious, why did you include that one? It's because I am chiefly interested in the way that Dead by Daylight's engine works, and perks like that have a habit of being very weird and a little bit buggy. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we found in the past that's worked, where you wouldn't expect it to. You would think, oh no, that's definitely based on hit, but actually sometimes it just does it every second or something along those lines. That specifically hasn't happened before, but that kind of thing has happened before. We now know from that myth a little bit more about Dead by Daylight's engine, at least as far as that perk is concerned. And I think that's interesting, and I think that's worth having in the video. If you disagree with me including it, you can still leave your comments saying, aren't most of these super obvious? You're an idiot, Pebsie, for including them. Or you could just not leave that comment. I've gone full true talent today, you know. Yeah, wearing this. It's a hot day. It's a heat wave in the UK. So, you know, this feels appropriate. Appraisal works with Residual Manifest. This one was submitted by Rad Renegade. Appraisal allows you to rummage through already open chests 3 times per trial. Residual Manifest allows you to rummage through already open chests once per trial, guaranteeing a basic flashlight. But will rummaging through a chest take away an appraisal token or disable Residual Manifest's rummage ability, or will it do both? Head-on can only apply to one target. This was submitted by Spooks. Head-on allows you to jump out of a locker and stun an entity in front of you, be that the killer, a zombie, or one of the twins. But can this apply to more than one entity at a time? We can test this by positioning both Victor and the twins outside of the same locker. Residual Manifest causes Blast Mine and Flashbang blinds to apply blindness. This one was submitted by Azra J. As we've discussed already, Residual Manifest applies the blindness status effect when blinding the killer with a flashlight, but does it also do this for Blast Mine, which allows you to set a trap on a generator that explodes when kicked, stunning and blinding the killer, and Flashbang, which allows you to craft a throwable flashbang that blinds the killer. Tenacity overrules knockout slow crawling effect. This was submitted by Dreadlord. Tenacity increases your crawling speed by 50%. Knockout reduces a down survivor's crawling speed by 50%. So does Tenacity either 1. Ignore knockout, allowing you to move at 150% speed, 2. Render knockout speed reduction useless, i.e. minus 50 plus 50, so you can crawl at normal speed, or 3. Have no effect whatsoever with knockout overriding the speed completely until it wears off. Let's find out. BFFs increases movement speed during frenzy fatigue. This one was submitted by Tatariu. The Legion add-on BFFs gains tokens as you chain together Feral Frenzy hits. If the add-on has 15 or more tokens once the exit gates are powered, then you're given a 4% haste increase when not in Feral Frenzy. But does this apply to the Legion's fatigue state, as that's technically not in Feral Frenzy? Two anti-hemorrhagic syringes can take a survivor from dying to healthy. That is a difficult word to say. I gotta say it again now. This one was submitted by... this username. The anti-hemorrhagic syringe is a medkit add-on that passively restores a health state to a survivor over 16 seconds. But what would happen if you applied 2 of these, one after another, to a downed survivor? Will they recover to healthy passively? Or does the second syringe cancel the first one out, leaving them in the injured state after 16 seconds? Let's take a look. That was really weird. The syringe only got halfway done. It must be that applying 2 syringes cuts the time in half for some reason.
From what I gather, if you put on 2 syringes, it will instead of going 100% rate of 6, it goes every 60 seconds, I think, so to be. So it's a bit like charges on the generator. It'll go at 100%. If you apply 2 syringes, it'll go at 200%. So it should take 8 seconds.
Residual Manifest blocks Freddy's ability to teleport. This one was submitted by Chiefy X-Boss. So in the last video, we found out that having blindness via Residual Manifest does not prevent the Dredge from being able to teleport to lockers. This comment from Ember Fox points out that blindness has no impact on critical auras that are displayed in white. However, it does block generator auras. As Freddy relies on generator auras for teleportation, is he unable to see them when he has the blindness effect? Stunning a killer during a Mori stops the Mori. This one was submitted by Nightwolf. This one wasn't presented as a question, so I've put it in question form to fit the format. If it's wrong, that's my bad. Sorry, Nightwolf. Great suggestion, though. Pretty simple stuff here. Let's find out what happens when you stun the killer during a Mori. Stunning actions when sick and uninjured versus the plague keeps you silent. This one was submitted by Insane TV. Once again, another simple one. Let's take a look. The scratch marks from Diversion go away quicker with Lightweight. This one was submitted by Rasputin. Diversion allows you to throw a pebble that causes scratch marks and a loud noise notification at the place where it lands. Lightweight causes scratch marks to fade faster. How much faster? That depends whether you're watching the video the day I upload it or a few days after because of patch 6.1.0, so I'm just going to stick with faster. But will Lightweight impact the scratch mark duration of Diversion? Let's find out. Diversion will create an explosion in the air if thrown from a high place. This one was submitted by DeJoin. And we close off with another Pebble myth. Let's see if we can cause the loud noise notification explosion to appear in the sky by throwing it off of a high place. Ruin will deactivate when a survivor disconnects. This one was submitted by Shaggy Rose. As of 6.1.0, Ruin now deactivates and turns back into a dull totem when a survivor is killed by any means. But does this include a survivor disconnecting? Undying can save Ruin. This one was submitted by Eresili. Well. So how about Hex Undying, which would normally transfer the Hex to the Undying Hex totem when another Hex is cleansed? Will this save Ruin when a survivor dies? Metal of Man reveals your aura when another perk gives you endurance. This one was submitted by Jay the Last. The Metal of Man tooltip states that as long as you have endurance, your aura is revealed to the killer whenever you are farther than 16 meters from them. But does this apply only to Metal of Man's application of endurance, or does it apply to all instances of endurance when this perk is equipped? Corrective action skill checks count towards Rookie Spirit. This one was submitted by Nania. Corrective action gains a token each time you succeed at a great skill check. When a survivor working on the same gen as you fails a skill check, a token is consumed and their failed skill check counts as a good skill check. Rookie Spirit activates after completing 3 skill checks successfully. So if Survivor A has corrective action and Survivor B has Rookie Spirit, both of them are working on the same gen, and then Survivor B fails a skill check, does corrective action shifting this fail into a good count towards their Rookie Spirit progress? Distortion loses a token even when the killer is blind. This one was submitted by Freddy S. Distortion starts the trial with 3 tokens and loses a token whenever your aura would be revealed to the killer. The blindness status effect, applicable to killers via residual manifest, prevents you from being able to read auras. So, will Distortion still lose a token if your aura would be revealed to the killer even if your aura isn't revealed to the killer due to blindness? Corrupt Intervention deactivates after a tombstone. This one was submitted by Sloyjin. As of 6.1.0, Corrupt Intervention now deactivates when the first survivor is put into the dying state. As Maya's tombstone add-on skips the dying state and allows you to immediately Mori a survivor, will this prevent the deactivation of Corrupt Intervention? Pain Resonance works with surveillance. This one was submitted by L-Dwaps. Scourge Hook Pain Resonance causes the survivor with the most regression to spark, instantly losing 15% of its progression and begin regressing when you hook a survivor on a Scourge Hook. Surveillance allows you to see the auras of any regressing generator in white. But will you be able to see the aura of a generator that starts regressing due to Pain Resonance with surveillance? Is this a new meta combo? White Ward will protect items found in chests. This one was submitted by Black Emperor 818. And finally, the White Ward is an offering which prevents the loss of items when you die. This doesn't work if you drop an item yourself or via Franklin's demise, or if you disconnect, only if you die carrying an item. But will it therefore work on items collected from chests during the trial? Let's find out. JRM is the best at holding killers. Oh, a bonus one submitted by Dodotic. Let me check. Okay, I don't know what this means. Maybe? Survivors that go down due to deep wound trigger eruption. This one was submitted by Nathan Humphreys. Eruption highlights every generator you kick. When you put a survivor into the dying state, every affected generator explodes and starts regressing. But will this effect trigger if a survivor goes down to a deep wound, as in theory you haven't been directly responsible for them going down? I mean, you have been, but like, it's their inability. It's not an effect that the killer entity has triggered. Let's find out. Reassurance pauses the kinship timer. This one was submitted by Hyperlinks. Reassurance allows you to halt the sacrifice process of another survivor for 30 seconds. Kinship pauses the struggle phase timer for 34 seconds if another survivor enters the range of your hook. So, Survivor 1 has Kinship, Survivor 2 has Reassurance, and Survivor 1 is hooked. What happens when Survivor 2 activates Reassurance? Will it pause the kinship timer? Let's take a look. Switching between Charlotte and Victor clears blindness. This one was submitted by Coleman Stampley. Residual Manifest inflicts blindness when blinding the killer. Coleman says that this effect can be cleared before the 30-second timer is up by switching between Charlotte and Victor. Let's find out. Terminus counters adrenaline. This one was submitted by Mathematics, that's difficult, and a few other people, but I saw this one first, sorry. Terminus causes all injured, dying, or hooked survivors to suffer from broken once the exit gates are powered. Adrenaline causes you to instantly heal 1 health state when the exit gates are powered. So if you're injured, have adrenaline, the killer has Terminus, and the exit gates are powered, what takes precedent? Do you heal? Are you still given broken despite being healthy? Or does it apply broken and then heal you? Does Terminus counter adrenaline? Let's find out. Hex Ruin's deactivation causes Hex Retribution secondary effect to proc. This one was submitted by Pilot Medic Doctor. Hex Ruin deactivates when a survivor is killed. Hex Retribution reveals the auras of all survivors when a totem is cleansed or blessed. But does the deactivation of Ruin and subsequent turning of that totem into a dull totem cause Retribution to proc? Tenacity keeps its speed when crawling out of the exit gate. This one was submitted by Ken Tip. This is one of the ones where I looked at it and thought, oh man, that's like a real video gamey buggy myth thing. Had to cover it. Tenacity allows you to crawl 50% faster, but does it lose this speed increase when running out of the exit gate? Sprint Burst deactivates when exiting. Okay, now I want to find out if haste effects work as well. Does Sprint Burst, which allows you to move faster for 3 seconds when sprinting, keep its effect when leaving? Self-Care is faster when inside of Boone Circle of Healing. This one was submitted by Shy Phoenix 01. We finish on a pretty interesting one. Circle of Healing increases your healing speed by 50% when within the range of the totem and allows you to self-heal at 50% the regular speed. Self-Care also allows this ability at 35% of the normal healing speed. But does Self-Care take advantage of the 50% boost from Circle of Healing, or does it remain at 35% speed? We can measure this by comparing the regular Circle of Healing speed with Self-Care's speed. Let's take a look. Invocation Weaving Spiders breaks the initiator, not the completer. This one was submitted by both Dr. Duck Duck 3216 and Caden Breely 3823. I don't know why I struggled with those names. Invocation Weaving Spiders will make you broken and injured on completion. But what if you start the invocation and then leave someone else to finish it? Who is hit with the penalty? Unforeseen's Terror Radius will trigger Terror Radius perks. This one was submitted by Schmuck McGee 7294. Unforeseen applies a Terror Radius to a generator when you damage it. But does this work with perks such as Stakeout, which gains a token when you're in the killer's Terror Radius?
Okay, I'll teleport away to one of my other guys. I am away.
Awesome. You can create 2 Terror Radiuses with Unforeseen and Dark Devotion. This one was submitted by Stanth-Y6506. Okay, so how about pairing Unforeseen with Dark Devotion, which transfers your Terror Radius to the Obsession for 30 seconds whenever the Obsession loses a health state? Blinds get rid of the Unknown's hallucinations. This one was submitted by J.C. Mooney. The Unknown periodically spawns hallucinations. Survivors can walk up to hallucinations and dispel them, but what happens if you try to blind a hallucination? Okay, so I think this one is interesting because people are pairing the Unknown with Insidious, which grants you undetectable after standing still for 2 seconds, and you look pretty much identical to a hallucination. If this doesn't work to dispel, which I'm assuming it won't, this might still be good for telling who isn't, like, whether or not that actually is the killer in front of you, or if it is a hallucination. I'm just interested in seeing whether it, like, blinds the hallucination or not. Strength in Shadows stacks with botany knowledge. This one was submitted by Industrial RM. Strength in Shadows allows you to self-heal at 60% speed when in the basement. Botany knowledge increases healing speed by 50%. But is there a difference when taking these two together? Strength in Shadows stacks with Self-Care. This one was submitted by... Oh, he's that fellow. Okay, so how about Self-Care, which allows you to self-heal at 35% the normal speed? Invocation Weaving Spiders can cause all 7 gens to be completed. This one was submitted by Brave Conscript, Fragile Essence 9376, and Sir Dog Men. Look at that. Look at that profile picture. So I've had a few people request this, and I've also seen a few people bat it away by correctly saying when the exit gates are powered, all generators are shown as being completed. However, what we can do is see if all the generates highlight on completion, and then we can know that 7 generators have actually been completed. I'm also interested in seeing if this causes any weird behavior or bugs, because I imagine the game is set up for 5 gens to be completed, not 7. There'll probably be some sort of fail-safe in place to prevent 7 gens from getting completed. So it's quite an interesting one. Fits with the series. Let's take a look. See what your teammates do. Oh, none of the gens lit up. Oh, that's so late. Blocked generators gain charges from Invocation Weaving Spiders. This one was submitted by Jack the Cat 2489 and Soulblade 39YT. Invocation Weaving Spiders will give 15 charges to every generator on the map when completed. I've just established that. Why am I reading that out again? These are in the wrong order. Well, if you didn't know for the last myth, now you know. So that's what that does. But will this count towards blocked generators? To make this interesting, we'll pit it against the Onryo perk, Merciless Storm, which, whenever a generator is repaired to 90%, gives survivors continuous difficult skill checks. Failing any of those skill checks will block it for 20 seconds. So we may well see a completed blocked generator here if this works. Very interesting. So this is a bit of a tough one. Yes, the generator gained charges, but no, it didn't complete. At first I thought that perhaps block generators outright can't be completed, so it halted at around 99% progress because, after all, Merciless Storm works on gens at 90% and Weaving Spiders adds 15 charges, which is 16.67% of a generator's full potential. But we can clearly see in the very last frame before the gen is blocked that the failed skill check took off the regular amount of progress. When we recorded this, I was under the impression that the failed Merciless Storm skill check would not apply a regression penalty, but clearly this isn't the case. A failed skill check removes 10% of the gen's progress, which means that we should be around 96.67% complete after the gen is unblocked, and that looks about right to me. I'm content with the myth being proven correct, because it did gain progress even though it was blocked. As sad as it is that we didn't get to see if the gen could be complete and blocked simultaneously. Xenomorph can hit around corners by strafing at the end of the tail attack. This one was submitted by the Sloth of Truth. So I found this to be a really difficult one to test. As you can see here, if you start the attack from behind the corner and then strafe around it, yes, you can technically hit around the corner, but it's about when the tail attack goes off. If the tail passes through the survivor as it's being pulled back, then that won't count as a hit. So I'm not really sure what to say for this one. You just need to hit the survivor, but you can obviously move while charging up the attack. But then I wouldn't call that hitting around corners. So I don't know. If I've misunderstood what the person's asking, let me know in the comments. But I'm pretty sure I'm just going to leave this one with a... You can arc your tail over some objects. This was submitted by Happy Shinobi and Header MC. So I started off just trying to hit over this object here, and at first it didn't seem possible, but then I started noticing the little yellow splash, which obviously shows where it's actually connected to, and if you get your aiming just right for this object, you can hit over it. However, the question asked after Borgo, so I switched over to Borgo, and I just kept trying it over and over again, even to the point of the yellow splash being on Nick Cage's head, literally on top of his head. I was about to give up, but I decided, let's just move a little bit further forward, and then... So, yes, you can hit over objects, but it's inconsistent. Going down with a turret keeps it in your inventory. This one was submitted by Aero-K Music. So, first off, it gets destroyed whenever you're hit, but even if you go back and grab another one, when you go down, it will be destroyed again, and just to prove that it has been destroyed, it's no longer in my hand when I get off the killer's shoulders. Leaving a turret in the control station will break it and put it on cooldown. This one was submitted by Dirt Golem. Now, in testing another myth, I found that whenever I picked up a turret and placed it on the floor, it would destroy itself after about 2 minutes. So I waited for 3 minutes here, and the turret did not get destroyed. The tunnel will generate a new turret if you escape the trial with one. This one was submitted by Gordura. This was an absolute nightmare to test, given the aforementioned turret self-destruction. So I just had to run around setting up turrets and then grabbing one, going up to a door, opening the door, picking it up again and running out. And as you can see, the control station did not give an extra turret once he'd run out. Survivors will see the auras of game objects while suffering from blindness. This one was submitted by Nathan Elev 3112. So typically blindness would restrict your ability to view auras, but does this hold true when those auras are killer specific mechanics, in this case flame turrets and command centers? I am assuming not, because I'm pretty sure it doesn't stop essential game objects from being visible. Let's find out. Killers will see the auras of game objects while suffering from blindness. So, what if the xenomorph is blinded via residual manifest? Will it still be able to see tunnel entrances? And finally, Xenomorph's skull is visible on the default skin. This one was submitted by Basement Dweller. So what they've said is the model shows under its dome. The Xenomorph's domes are meant to be translucent, so if you mess about with video settings and go into a light area, can you see the skull? And the answer is no. No matter which way you look at the dome, no matter how we fiddle with video settings, you can never see the skull underneath the dome. However, by clipping into it, you can see that the skull is actually fully rendered all of the time. So it's a little bit weird that there isn't just some sort of shader that makes you able to see that skull. But there you go. You can't heal fully using reactive healing. This one was submitted by Housie. Reactive healing gives you 50% of your missing healing progression whenever a survivor loses a health state within 32 meters of your location. As Housie has illustrated here, each half would never actually get to 100% unless the perk description is wrong and it actually just returns 50% healing, that is 8 charges. So let's exhaustively find out. Welcome to the Alex Adams corner. Alex Adams 4017 has submitted a whole bunch of myths while I've been on hiatus, and I completely overlooked them. So, in his wisdom, he decided to restate them in my most recent video, and they are all meaty. So, the next 4 myths are dedicated to Alex Adams. Survivors being carried by the clown can receive buffs from yellow clouds. The clown's yellow cloud bottles apply a haste effect, invigoration, and the add-on cigar box gives all players who are invigorated the ability to see the auras of all other players within 16 meters for 6 seconds. But what happens if you're on the clown's shoulders and he walks through a yellow cloud? Will the survivor receive the buffs? Repressed Alliance will block an overcharge skill check. Repressed Alliance, a survivor perk, allows you to block a generator for 30 seconds. Overcharge, a killer perk, applies itself to any generator that you kick. The next survivor who interacts with the generator is faced with a difficult skill check. If they fail it, the generator explodes and loses 4% of its progress. But what happens if you try and block the gem with Repressed Alliance in the few frames before the overcharge skill check shows up? And will Repressed Alliance's entity block prevent overcharge from exploding the gen? And finally, in the Alex Adams corner, we have spamming swings with Mad Grit is faster than walking normally. Mad Grit removes the cooldown of missed basic attacks when carrying a survivor, but does spamming swings make you move faster than when walking forward normally? Going down due to deep wound while holding a turret won't destroy the turret. This was suggested by so many of you. So let's test it out. We found out in the last video that anytime you're hit by the xenomorph, a held turret is destroyed. But what happens if you go down due to a deep wound? Going down with Plot Twist while holding a turret won't destroy the turret. The other half of this is testing it using Plot Twist. Plot Twist allows you to put yourself into the dying state, so let's see if this causes the turret to be destroyed. The Invocator must complete the invocation. This one was submitted by Pidgeg784. Pidgenegg784. What happens if the person who initiated an invocation stops working on it and the person who completes it has no invocation perk? Does the invocation still work? So Nick Cage is currently broken. I just want to point out that took 4 minutes. Okay, so he is currently broken. Let's fire the generator. And there you go, look, 10% off. 10 charges, sorry, that was not 10%, but there you go, 10 charges. The Invocator must be alive for the Invocator to work. Okay, so how about if the Invocation Initiator dies before the invocation is complete? You can hold a turret on the killer's shoulders. This one was submitted by BarrelBoy5101. In our last video, we discovered that if you go down due to deep wound or plot twist against the xenomorph while carrying a turret, the turret doesn't get destroyed. I don't think this is intentional because it appears to sort of glitch around the floor as you crawl and you can't place it. By the way, Lilith Alucard, there's your answer. Pressing M1 heals you when you're down, so you can't place the turret. But what happens if you're picked up by the killer? Will you continue to hold the turret while on their shoulders? If you're downed when weaving spiders completes, you gain a health state. This one was submitted by Moki Meister. So this one's really interesting. The wording on invocation weaving spiders is you automatically enter the injured state. It doesn't say that you lose a health state. So what happens if you start an invocation, have someone else complete it, which we discovered previously does work, and then you're downed before the invocation completes? Will it pick you up? Because you're meant to be automatically placed into the injured state. Not injured, not losing a health state. So let's find out. So this was an interesting one to test, because people complain a lot of the time that I just do ones that, you know, if you just read the perk description, it would tell you what happens. But weaving spiders is meant to give you a penalty, right? It's meant to be a penalty. So if this works, I'm sure there will be comments, people saying, well, they should have just read the description, you just said it picks you up. But also, this is meant to be a penalty. So if it works, which I don't think it will, then it's not a penalty, it's a benefit. It's basically acting like adrenaline. So please don't comment, you should just read the perk description. Every time I tell people not to comment something, they end up commenting it. So I know people are going to comment it anyway, but don't be dumb. This is interesting. This is interesting, all right? All right? My videos are interesting, damn it. The Unknown has base kit whispers. This one was submitted by Idea Lab 5289. So the Unknown will randomly spit out voice lines while you're playing. The question here is whether or not those voice lines will only play when within proximity to another survivor. What we need to test here is 1. Does the Unknown still give voice lines when on the other side of the map to the survivor? 2. Does the Unknown give voice lines when near but not chasing a survivor? That would then be base kit whispers. And 3. Does the Unknown ever give voice lines heard only by survivors or only by the killer? Or are they universal, sort of shared across the network? Let's test all 3. Okay, so we waited and tested this for a good amount of time, right? I sat there for like 3 minutes and there were no voice lines, so I was ready to move on to testing the next one. But as soon as I hit stop recording, of course, the Unknown started speaking. And I just about hit record right as they were finishing the voice line. So no, the Unknown does not have base kit whispers. It still talks, even if you're on the other side of the map to the survivor. The Cenobites puzzle box will complete when going down to plot twist. This one was submitted by In the Outs. So the Cenobites power has survivors picking up a puzzle box and having to solve it. You cannot drop the puzzle box. It has to be solved once it's been picked up. This is a major part of Pinhead's design because while you're solving the box, your location is revealed to the killer and he can teleport to you. In the Outs says that they already know the outcome and want to spread awareness, which makes me think this is going to be something substantial. If it solves the puzzle, that's a big issue because it removes the central mechanic from being usable by this killer. If it instead doesn't solve the puzzle but keeps it in the player's hands, like we've seen with the turrets against the Xenomorph, then that's an even bigger issue because it takes the box out of the equation entirely while the player is down or on the hook. That totally breaks the Cenobites' power. So let's take a look. Okay, so nothing really happened here. When you get picked up, the puzzle box gets taken out of your hand and it just teleports elsewhere. It doesn't get completed, but while you're on the ground, it's still in your hand. I don't know what In the Outs was expecting here. Perhaps they sent this in before it was fixed and it just wasn't included in patch notes. Maybe it was included in patch notes and I missed it, but nothing out of the ordinary seems to happen, which is a shame because I was looking forward to doing this one, but never mind. Invocation weaving spiders and brand new parts do not stack. This one was submitted by Cookie Soup 3218. I've had this come up a few times and it's a very quick one to cover, so here it is. The effect of weaving spiders is basically identical to that of brand new parts. So what happens if you complete the invocation and then attempt to use a brand new part? Does a further 10% come off the generator or is the brand new part ignored? Let's find out. Thwack will activate if a pallet is dropped on the singularity while he's in overclock. This one was submitted by Gwaibaby. I think Gwaibaby, like crybaby, or it could be Gwibaby. I'm going to say Gwaibaby because it's funny. Thwack is a killer perk that causes all survivors within 32 meters of your location to scream and reveal their aura for 4 seconds when you break a breakable wall or a pallet. When the singularity is in overclock mode, it cannot be stunned by pallets. The pallets will instead break and you'll be momentarily slowed, a bit like Spirit Fury. So will this cause Thwack to activate? Chemical Trap works against the Knight's Guards. This one was also submitted by Crybaby. Chemical Trap allows you to install a trap on a pallet that, when kicked, explodes, spraying the killer with a chemical compound and slowing them by 50% for 4 seconds. But what happens if one of the Knight's Guards is ordered to break a trapped pallet? Will the trap still explode? So nothing happens. I mean, the spray comes up, but obviously the guard is going to disappear as soon as he's ordered to hit the thing, right? I don't know enough about the Knight's Guards to be able to say whether there's a different scenario in which they could break a pallet. I'm pretty sure they phase through pallets when they're chasing you. Maybe someone can correct me on that and I'll retest this for the next video. It does explode, but that's it. Unhooking yourself with Wicked will use up Deliverance. This one was submitted by King JPJ. Wicked allows you to guarantee yourself unhook when in the basement. Deliverance, meanwhile, guarantees a self unhook after safely unhooking another survivor, but applies the broken status effect for 60 seconds. So what happens if we have Deliverance active and Wicked equipped and attempt to self unhook in the basement? Would Deliverance be used up, or does Wicked take priority? I'm just going to anticipate the comments here. What if we change the perk order around and put Wicked ahead of Deliverance in the loadout? The Unknown can down survivors who have already escaped. This one was submitted by Malachi Redfern 2186. I love starting off with weird ones. The Unknown is the first killer who has a splash projectile that can down a survivor. We know that projectiles can't be shot past the entity's barrier at the exit gates, but that's fine because UVX, the projectile, needs only hit that barrier to down a survivor caught in its radius. So, what happens if a survivor is injured and weakened and thus able to be injured again by UVX and then gets hit just after leaving the exit gate? Let's find out. So, I tested this a couple of times just to be sure. Even though Feng is weakened and would therefore usually go down from this, she just doesn't. Yes, I tried hitting her under the exact same circumstances without going through the gate, and look, she gets down and moves out of the match as she goes down. But once she's crossed that barrier, there is simply no changing of health states. Dissolution and Chemical Trap can slow survivors. This one was submitted by Shucks-A713. Dissolution activates 3 seconds after injuring a survivor by any means for 20 seconds. If a survivor fast vaults a pallet while inside your terror radius, that pallet will break and Dissolution deactivates. Chemical Trap is a survivor perk that allows you to install a trap on a pallet, which explodes when broken and normally therefore applies a slowing effect to the killer. But what happens if Dissolution is active and a survivor vaults a Chemical Trap pallet? As technically they explode the trap when it's destroyed, will the survivor be hit with the slowness effect? Dissolution will activate Thwack. This one was submitted by Dub12. Thwack is a killer perk that activates when hooking a survivor. All survivors within 32 meters of your location will scream and reveal their aura for 4 seconds the next time you break a pallet or breakable wall. In our last video, we found that Thwack works with the Singularity's overclock auto pallet break mechanic, but will it work with Dissolution as it's technically the survivor breaking the pallet? Let's find out. The Singularity can counter pallet saves when in overclock. This one was submitted by Moon of 9AEI. The Singularity's overclock mode causes any pallet dropped on him to be destroyed by the entity with a brief movement penalty applied. So the question is this: if a player gets a pallet save while the Singularity is in overclock, will the pallet save be counted? Chains interrupt invocations. This one was submitted by Nathan LF3112. I'm including this because if it's true, it makes invocations practically useless against Pinhead, as the moment you step up from an invocation, the progress begins ticking down extremely fast. This uselessness is especially true when performing the invocation solo, as the chain hunt takes 90 seconds to charge, and a solo invocation takes 120 seconds. So, let's put yet another nail in the coffin of invocation weaving spiders. Do chains interrupt invocations? So, I stopped here because I wasn't getting hit by any chains. I ran around for a bit and still wasn't getting hit by any chains. I quickly rushed to the wiki to see that, yes, the maximum chain hunt attack delay is only 12 seconds. Oh my goodness, I thought. This is game breaking. If you're doing an invocation and a chain hunt starts, you won't be hit by any of the chains. This is huge. Not only that, but I solved the lament configuration and waited around for the next chain hunt and still I wasn't getting hit by anything. It breaks it for the entire trial. I was right just there about to extract this part of the video and turn it into its own standalone video to explain like my theories behind why it happens, and then I paused. I thought, Tom, you've done this before and you've ended up being wrong. It doesn't matter that the wiki doesn't list something or that you've never experienced it or heard of it. There's probably a well-known game mechanic that's caused this. And everyone in the DBD community is going to stand around laughing at you. They're going to point and laugh. They're going to say, we've 1,800 hours, that's not enough to be making videos. You go delete your channel. It's what always happens. So this time, for good measure, I took to Twitter and... yeah, it turns out that you just don't get any change during a chain hunt if there's only one survivor left. I had no idea, neither did the wiki, neither does his power description in-game, but in any case, I still just tested what happens when he hits you with a chain directly and can confirm that it does not cause your invocation to interrupt. Dodged a bullet there, quite frankly, especially now I know that there's a chance of Hotstarver watching these videos, which terrifies me if you're watching this, Hotstarver. Getting a comment from you on a video like this is very scary. Thank you for watching. I'm not complaining about you commenting on my video, obviously, but I can be very imprecise sometimes, and people always bully me for it. And now I think, oh god, the people who know what they're doing are watching my videos. I need to have a higher level of, oh dear, you get what you get, the anxiety. Anyway. Object of Obsession will still reveal the killer's aura when the killer is blind. This one was submitted by False Idol 1120. Object of Obsession will reveal the killer's aura to you every time your aura would be revealed to the killer. It also reveals your aura to the killer for 3 seconds every 30 seconds. Residual Manifest applies the blindness status effect to the killer when you blind them with a flashlight. Blindness prevents a player from being able to see auras. So, will being blinded prevent Object of Obsession from revealing the killer's aura to the survivor? This is one of those ones that I know I'm going to get. Just read the perk description comment. So I want to clarify why this is interesting to me. We know that at some point in the game code, gives the player aura reading abilities. What we don't know is when or why this occurs. Consider 2 possible implementations. This would make the most sense to me. We check if the killer can see, and only if he can see do we add the aura. It's then the killer's add aura function that checks if the survivor has and therefore triggers the perk. An alternate implementation might be this. So in this scenario, the perk is triggered regardless of whether the killer is blind. And the reason it would be implemented in this way is because 1, it's a little bit cleaner, and 2, it keeps killer code in the killer class and prevents the killer class from running any survivor code. This is a much neater and more organized way of dealing with this effect, but it means the object would still trigger even if the killer is blinded, because the aura being added and the perk being triggered actually is completely decoupled from the killer class. Let's actually test it. The anti-camp feature, when used in second stage, will still apply Deliverance's broken effect. This one was submitted by Subway Surfer 15. In our last video, we found that when taking Wicked and Deliverance and unhooking yourself in the basement, you'd still take the penalty from using Deliverance, even though you could have gotten off anyway via Wicked. That is, you still come up broken. So this suggestion takes us one step further. Since patch 7.3.0, you can actually unhook yourself in second stage if the killer has camped you for long enough. So what happens if you have Deliverance active and unhook yourself via the anti-camp feature rather than a regular unhook attempt? Will it still apply Deliverance's broken effect? Flashbang, Blast Mine, and Chemical Trap game progress quicker on generators with brand new parts. This one was submitted by List the Name. I'm covering this one because it got a lot of upvotes and a big discussion broke out surrounding it. There are several survivor perks in the game now that activate only after a certain amount of a generator is repaired, but the specific descriptions of these vary. Chemical Trap, Blast Mine, and Flashbang all activate after repairing generators for a total of 50%. Repressed Alliance, however, activates after repairing generators for a total of 45 seconds. It's worth noting that a generator has 90 charges and survivors repair at 1 charge per second, so Repressed Alliance theoretically also activates after 50%, but is worded slightly differently. We also don't have a concrete idea of what 50% means because brand new parts and now Invocation Weaving Spiders all take charges off of a generator. In the HUD, this is accounted for by having the total repair progress requirement calculated from the amount being taken off, by which I mean it will display as if no brand new part is applied and you're just repairing faster. I mention this because it's likely that this is also being done to account for brand new parts and weaving spiders when giving progress to the aforementioned perks. In fact, it's likely that the perk has no idea of the state of the generator at all, and it is in fact the generator which applies the progress. In this scenario, there'd be no reason to factor in required charges unless you're intentionally making these perks charge quicker, but the disparity in descriptions suggests that there is a difference, as the other 3 perks are all consistent in their wording. So just to restate the initial question, Flashbang, Blast Mine, and Chemical Trap gain progress quicker on generators of brand new parts. Let's find out. Increasing your field of view increases the angle that you can get blinded. This one was submitted by Swedish Dwarf. Patch 7.5.0, released back at the end of January, added a field of view slider to the settings. This increases the angle that you can see, but does it impact the angle at which survivors can blind you? I.e., if you increase your field of view, will you make flashlight saves and blinds easier? Let's find out. So for this one, I set the field of view up to the max and then attempted blinding until Feng was right on the edge of the screen. And then adjusted the field of view back down to the lowest, to the point where Feng wasn't even visible anymore, then had her reattempt the blind. As you can see, it still worked. So I re-raised the field of view and had her continuously move stage left until we reached the absolute point at which you cannot blind, then move stage right very, very slightly until it worked again. By this point, she wasn't even visible on the screen at max field of view. And setting the field of view back down didn't prevent the blind from working. So I'm quite comfortable in saying that this doesn't work and that field of view doesn't impact blinding angle. Champion of Light and Chemical Trap stack. This one was submitted by Froster1247. Chemical Trap allows you to set a trap on a pallet. When the killer breaks that pallet, the trap explodes and the killer is slowed by 50% for 4 seconds. Champion of Light applies a 20% hindered effect to the killer for 6 seconds when blinding the killer. This means that the killer will be slowed. Historically, we've had some perks that apply standard effects like speed boosts or slowdowns that have been moved to applying a status effect instead to ensure that they can't be abused to stack. Before exhaustion was a thing, for example, each exhaustion perk had its own unique cooldown. And as Froster points out here, Champion of Light's tooltip states that it doesn't stack, but Chemical Trap isn't applying hindered. So, will they stack? Let's find out. It's hard to see here because of the blind, but there are a few frames where we can see just how ridiculously slow the killer moves. Yes, these two perks stack. I mean, look at this. This isn't slow motion. I haven't adjusted this footage. This is the actual speed that I was moving. It's ridiculously slow. Picking up a trapped pallet doesn't destroy the trap. This one was submitted by Justin Einux. You can pick up dropped pallets using any means necessary, but what happens if you do this to a pallet with chemical trap applied? Will the trap remain waiting to be dropped and kicked later in the game? You can chemical trap fake pallets. This one was submitted by Maury Cool Guy 4715. The Doctor's Order add-ons create illusionary pallets when survivors are in madness. These disappear when approached by survivors, but is there a point where you can get close enough to them to have the chemical trap prompt appear, and if so, can you place a chemical trap on them? Flashbang, Blast Mine, and Chemical Trap will gain charges from weaving spiders. This one was submitted by the Adam Aronggear, and he said to pronounce it Aronggear, but I'm not going to. Adam Aronggear. Yeah. Flashbang, Blast Mine, and Chemical Trap all activate after working on 50% of a generator. But what happens if weaving spiders is applied while you're working on a gen? Getting picked off the ground with weaving spiders activates Soul Guard. This one was submitted by Harlem Duck. In one of our recent videos, we found that if you start a weaving spiders invocation, get knocked down, and then someone else completes the invocation, you will actually get picked up. Soul Guard is a perk that triggers when you're healed or recover from the dying state, granting endurance for 8 seconds. But will being picked up via weaving spiders trigger Soul Guard? Fire Up speeds up grabs. This one was submitted by MSX.exe or MSX.exe. Fire Up gains a token for each generator completed. Each token grants a 4% buff to picking up and dropping survivors, breaking things, and vaulting windows. But does it also apply to grabbing survivors off of gens, since that's technically a pickup action? I decided to test this with locker grabs as well, so here you go. And finally, Tinkerer activates sooner when a brand new path is applied. This one was submitted by Lewis Joined the Party, or at No Milk for Me, which is a lot funnier than Lewis Joined the Party. So, Tinkerer activates when a generator reaches 70% progression. But what happens if a brand new part is applied to a gen? Will Tinkerer activate at 56 charges, that is 70% of the remaining charges, or 63 charges, that is 70% of the full value of the gen before the BMP is applied? Let's find out. Okay, so I paused both of these on the exact frame when the red stain was no longer visible. This is not the precise moment when Tinkerer activates, of course, but it'll still be uniform across both clips, so it's fine for the sake of comparison. I then measured the pixels in the bar compared to the pixels remaining in the bar and found that the top non-brand new part bar was at 74% by the time the red stain vanished versus the bottom brand new part bar at 66%. This is enough of a discrepancy for me to conclude that this does work. Tinkerer will activate sooner on generators hit with brand new parts, which makes sense if you think about it, because if you applied more than 3 brand new parts to a gen and it only triggered at the same set number of charges, it would never actually activate for that gen. So yeah, it works. So there you have it, 114 Dbd Myths Busted. If you have any suggestions for this series, please leave a comment with the word myth somewhere on what you post. I'm ill, so I can't talk properly, I'm sorry. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.